All right. We are live. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Is anyone in here? Do we know if this is working? Post in the chat if you're here so I know this is working. Hey, okay. Unbelievable. All right. Looks like we got 16 people in here, 15 people in here so far. So seems to be working, but I need people in the chat to tell me if it's working. Are we working? All right, Luca. All right, give us a few minutes while we sort of let people come in, and then we'll officially start this. So we'll start this in about 5 minutes. All right, give me a few minutes, and then we'll get officially started. All right. So we'll officially start, Luca, and people watching in a few minutes. But while we're waiting, why don't people just sort of start throwing in questions that they might have for me? Could be really about anything. Startups, Web3, community, what's on their mind. Maybe they need feedback on their startup. I don't know. But feel free to start entering in the comments, and I'm just going to go ahead and start answering. Hey. Came higher than Nimish. I love Nimish. Okay, so I'm going to officially start. First ever episode of The Room Where It Happens, live on YouTube. We're here. I'm here. Sahil isn't here today. It's just me. But I'm here to answer all your questions, literally about anything. Building a startup is obviously difficult, and it's kind of lonely. So I thought this would be fun. So what I want you all to do is literally bombard me with questions in the comments, and I'll answer them. And I'm going to answer them like completely honestly. It's on the record, but I'm going to be answering it kind of like on off the record. And I want to hear your deepest and darkest questions. So we are live, first episode. Let's get into it. Luca goes, keeping momentum in the DAO NFT communities during this market or during this bear market or whatever we're calling it. I think we're calling it a bear market because it is a bear market. And the truth is, it's a very, very good time to be building right now. Like there's just a lot of interesting opportunities and products that people are building, but you're just seeing a lot less traction than you did, for example, November 2021. So how do you keep momentum? I think it's just, if you believe that you're adding value building a Web3 product, then you kind of just have to believe in it. And even though it might be a bit slower than how it was in 2021, there's still tremendous opportunities happening right now. So I'm sure you all have seen a couple of days ago, Starbucks announced that they're launching a Web3 product. I saw today that Polygon just hit 150 million wallets. There is momentum in terms of usage of these projects. I just think a lot of the speculation is going away. So a lot of the speculators are going away. A lot of the tourists are going away. Doesn't mean that there's not tremendous opportunities, but it is, if we're being real, it's definitely harder to build when you don't have as much momentum. So wake up every day and just tell yourself and ask yourself. Don't even tell yourself. Ask yourself, do I believe in what I'm building? And if you believe in what you're building, then you shouldn't have any issues building in a bear market. Thanks for the question, Luca. Gym Rat, currently building a fitness community and told you're the guy to talk to. Okay, so ask me a question. Ask me anything and I will answer it. How do you go about building a solid team who can carry out the vision of your startup, the Vedic? That's a great question. Finding a team obviously is one of the hardest things to do in a startup. And I think, it's especially hard if you don't live in like a major city, especially a technology city like a San Francisco or New York. What I found really helpful is writing content. So let's say you're this guy in this comment section, Gym Rat. You're building a fitness community, and you want to hire maybe a CTO, maybe you want to hire a marketing person. Well, one of the things that you can do is write about the fitness community, or maybe fitness is pretty horizontal. It's pretty wide. I would actually try to focus on maybe a sub community. So maybe it's like the keto community, or maybe it's plant-based community, and just write. Maybe it's on Twitter. You're going to write 2 threads a week. Maybe it's on TikTok. You're going to post 1 TikTok a day, and start just building and attracting an audience of people who are interested in that thing. Once you've built that audience, then you have a lot of leverage. Then you have the leverage for, going on Twitter and being like, hey, I'm running this, plant-based community. I'd love for a head of marketing to join or CTO to join. And now you have people who've already built affinity to you. And a great example of that is literally one of the comments. Someone was like, hey, oh yeah, Gym Rat, currently building a fitness community and told you were the guy to talk to. This happens because I write and produce a lot of content on the internet. So my advice to people is, if you want to hire, write content. Most underrated strategies for growing a Twitter following. Okay, so I know a lot of people don't like threads, and I know there's sort of this, cringe nature of writing threads, but the Twitter algorithm favors threads. So, you have to ask yourself, when you're creating content, for these platforms, what can you create that the algorithms are going to spread? And they're going to spread threads and on Twitter. So I think what would I do? Like, I'd create a thread once, twice a week, and I just go and do that around my particular topic. The trick with threads is the hook is the most important thing about the thread. So the hook is like the first sentence that you'll write in your initial tweet. And why is it important is because the way the Twitter algorithm works is, if people actually click into the first tweet to see the following tweets, it's saying to the Twitter algorithm that this is interesting content, show it to other people. So if you can get a lot of people to click that first tweet to read the other tweets, then it's more likely that your tweet is going to spread. So I think it's a lot of people actually end up creating incredible threads, and they ask themselves, well, why did I get 100, 1,000 impressions? I thought, I spent a day creating this. Well, your hook wasn't captivating enough. So once you write your hooks, once you write your threads, just don't forget about your hooks. Okay, Tyrell Johnson says, I'm building a high-end subscription design service. What advice do you have on landing clients? I'm focused on creating valuable video content across all social channels on top of cold emails. I saw this Gary Vee video today, actually, where he says, I don't want to do convincing. I thought that was interesting. I don't want to do convincing. Everyone focuses on convincing, and I don't want to do convincing. And I think one of the reasons why he creates a lot of content is because he wants the CEO of Pepsi, the CMO of, Ford to reach out to him. And I think about it, a similar way. I run a design agency. We've got Fortune 100 clients. We've never sent a cold email once we never sent a cold email. Clients come to us because either it's through referrals or they follow our content and they're interested in community-based products and supercharging their communities. They want our lens on the world. So I think, how could you, Tyrell, to answer your question, like, how can you land clients? I think the first thing you can do is create a category or do something that's unique. So for example, with us, we're the place where if you want a community lens on building a brand, building a product, incentivizing using Web3, we're one of the first people to do it and the leaders in that category. What can you do that shows that you're a category leader? What is the category that you're going to be building? And the second thing is, the video content is really interesting, but I think, are your clients on TikTok as much as they are on Twitter? My advice to you would just be focus on one channel to begin with. Make sure that that's rocking and rolling. I also think that people sleep on LinkedIn. Like, I just recently started posting on LinkedIn over the last few weeks, and I've been getting, over 100,000 impressions on each of my posts. And I didn't have, a few weeks ago, I didn't have any followers on LinkedIn, still getting 100,000 impressions. So pick your channel and go deep on it. And then obviously you want a landing page to capture those leads. And it's as simple as that. Fun Gyros asks, you share some of your experience with taking on venture and deciding not to now. There seems to be a rise of founders with PTSD from raising going into lifestyle biz afterwards. Thoughts? Yes, there definitely is a lot of PTSD of second or third time founders around raising venture capital. I once met one of the best investors in Silicon Valley, and he told me something that'll always stick with me. He said, Greg, the best deals that I've ever, our fund, the worst deals, obviously we lose a third of our deals go to zero. Those are our worst deals. A third of our deals, we get our money back. So not a positive return. And a third of our deals, we get our money back to Google times return. He invested in Google, so that's why he said that. So how do you internalize that? What he is saying, that one of the best funds in the world, two-thirds of his portfolio essentially fails. Founders, teams don't see any money back because if the investors get their money back, chances are the team and founders don't see anything. You have to ask yourself, do you really want to play a game where two-thirds are the odds of losing? You might want to do it. But this is the best fund in the world. So, second tier, third tier funds, you're seeing 90, 95, 97% of the startups just not really going anywhere. So, with raising venture capital, I definitely had some PTSD. Would I do it again? Maybe. But I think that you're going to see the rise of sort of, they call them lifestyle businesses, but you could create a huge lifestyle business. Like, is Gary Vaynerchuk's, VaynerX a lifestyle business? Like, he does hundreds of millions in revenue. I think, to me, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue isn't exactly lifestyle business. Thank you for that question. That was a really good one. Luca asks, how do you keep from burning out on content creation? The way I do content creation is I go out in the world. I have like a notes. I'm sure you all have notes on your iOS phone if you have iOS or on Android. And I just like something will come to me and I'll just write it down. So for example, I don't know, I recently posted today, or sorry, it was actually today I posted about how I think TikTok is a great basically if you want to start your company, consumer company in 2022, you probably should start a TikTok, build that audience first. Start with the TikTok, then you can do an email newsletter, then you can do a podcast, then you could do a paid community, and then you could do a paid product. And that's where I believe, if you're trying to build a company in 2022, that's kind of the framework for it. That's not something that I like woke up at 5 in the morning and I was like, okay, like what can I tweet today? Not at all. I was, just thinking about it on a walk and I had just written it down. And then, I came inside and I had a cup of coffee and I just wrote it down. So how do I keep myself from burning out of content creation is it's just ideas that I have that I've written out. And, I probably spend an hour or some amount of time, depending on the week, just taking and organizing my thoughts. Uh, so it's friendly to the internet. Like that's a big part of taking your ideas and how do you make it friendly to the internet. We talked about hooks in threads before, how to create a good hook. And I think, I'll do a bit of that, but I won't burn out because I always have ideas and I like writing them down. And yeah, I'm always going to have ideas. Luca says, I've sustained it for 2 quarters at a time, but eventually burned out, lost motivation due to low growth. Okay, so I think you have to look at building an audience, not from like a 2 quarters thing, but more of like a 4 to 8 quarters thing, like a 1 to 2 years thing. I literally was screaming about community on Twitter for 10 years and no one paid attention. Like no one paid attention. COVID hits, and all of a sudden my account starts blowing up because people finally start talking about community. So, some people would say I was at the right place at the right moment, but I had actually spent so many years kind of screaming at no one for so long. So don't give up, Luca. Toka says, what should your ideal capital raise be? Amount of years runway needed versus your times yearly burn rate. How do you justify capital needed for startups in the idea phase? The rule of thumb is you should raise 18 months of capital. I think the rule of thumb for 2022 should be you should raise at least 24 months of capital. Because there's so much uncertainty with the current economic downturn, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable raising 18 months because that 18 months, maybe maybe it turns into 9 months very quickly. Like you have some unforeseen costs that come in, or you want to make a bet and that requires a few extra months of runway. So I think, yeah, if you can, I would raise 24 months of runway. And how do you justify capital needed for startups in the idea phase? I mean, I still think about it the same way. If I was starting, with Islands, that I did the tweet thread on that last week. I talked about my whole story, and I talked about I raised $2 million on an idea, and the justification for it was, hey, like, give us, our we're 3 people, we want to get paid, 8K a month of salary or something like that. That's going to be 24K a month. And, that translates into X amount of years of runway. And I don't know when we're going to hire more people. It's probably when we hit some amount of product market fit, but that's the thinking. Start, pay yourself something. I think that's a mistake a lot of founders make is they make themselves so uncomfortable that they don't make great decisions. You want to be somewhat comfortable. So you can definitely justify capital in the idea phase. The Vatic asks, how do you go about raising money to fund a community-based product? Can you use your own money, or is it necessary to have investors? If I was starting a community-based product right now, and we use our own money. We constantly use our own money. And the reason why is because First of all, it's way easier to start something. And by the way, your own money doesn't need to be a lot of money. It could be $1,000, $5,000. It doesn't need to be 100 grand, $1 million, etc. So, yeah, I think we're constantly doing it. And once you have some level of product market fit, your leverage with VCs just goes like through the roof. And your valuation goes up. And it also becomes way easier to sell investors because, we talked, one of the questions before was around like cold calling and selling potential clients. Your VCs, your venture capitalists are like clients. So you definitely, the more leverage you have with them, the easier it is and the faster you can get it done. And I know someone who has started many companies, two which were from founder, created $2 billion companies, two in the billions. And he said something to me that will always stick, which is, it's never fun to raise capital. And this is from someone who, raises a lot of capital and continues to raise capital. And he told me this while he was fundraising. So fundraising is never fun. So the more leverage you have, the better. Luca asks, any specific Twitter followers, websites, or resources for good thread hook inspo? Yes, actually. There's a app called Black Magic. It's a Twitter extension. Maybe someone can put it in the comments on YouTube. And it definitely gives you some inspiration around what good hooks come. And the other one is Thread Hunter, I think. Yeah, I think it's Thread Hunter. But it's another, if you Google like threads, Chrome extensions, there's different places where you can, I think Thread Hunter and Blackmagic, which will show you what are popular threads, and you can kind of reverse engineer some of those threads. Great question. And any specific Twitter followers, to answer your question, my co-host Sahil Bloom obviously is the master at it. Jim Rat says, question, Nimish has helped us build a new community-based platform that allows users to meet local fitness friends with the same interests. I love it. That's a very cool idea. Matthew Karen says, did anyone build on the home concierge service idea? I think some people were exploring it. So, Matthew's talking about an idea that we had on one of our first episodes. And basically it was someone to manage your home for about $500 a month. All the little things, exterminators, gardeners, housekeepers, that sort of thing. Basically what you would get out of a hotel or a high-end condo. And I still think there's an opportunity there. I think some people were trying, but I haven't heard back. All right, Alex Pranks, how would you get your first customers in an FB Reddit group? So one of the things I talk a lot about is unbundling of Facebook, unbundling of our Facebook groups, and unbundling of Reddit subreddits, unbundling of Discords. And what I mean by that really is just focusing on a particular niche and getting those people, creating a product for those people, creating a community for those people. And one of the ways you can do it is you create a shiny object for those people. So, let's say you're creating something for, let's say the FIRE community, Financial Independence Retire Early. For those of you who don't know, popular movement, it's very popular subreddit. What can you create for that group of people who are trying to retire early and are trying to hit a goal? Maybe it's a net worth calculator. Things like that, where you can, what are things that you can create that they can get really excited about, capture their email, and then bring them on to a platform, your own platform. Maybe it's your own Facebook group. Maybe it's your own sort of vertical social network. Maybe it's your own Discord. Maybe it's as simple as a WhatsApp group. Some of the biggest communities, I think, could start from something as simple as a WhatsApp group. So that's That's a great question. Thank you for that. And if anyone has any more questions about unbundling or community-based products, feel free to ask. Jim Rat says, when trying to bring people together, what is the best way to bring more traffic to Gym Rat Plus? Um, I'd have to, spend more time thinking about Gym Rat. But I think about building community-based products like this. I see it as a funnel. At the top, you have an audience, then you have a community, and then you have a community-based product. So I would start by building attention at the top. Build your top of funnel, build your audience. Right now, how do you do that? The best ways to do it right now are Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn if you're B2B. Why those platforms? Because those platforms want you. Oh, and I should add Instagram Reels. Those platforms want you and those formats want you to come to the front page. So TikTok is obviously the best. Then I would say Twitter, and then I would say Instagram Reels. How can you create content for those platforms that just start spreading? So it's just about reverse engineering for those platforms. Easier said than done, of course. But I think, yeah, if I were you, I would probably start with TikTok. I spoke to someone yesterday who started an account 30 days ago and got to 500,000 followers in her niche um, in 45 days. And TikTok is the place with the most amount of people with more than 1 million followers, and it's because it's easiest to get followers on that platform. So people are still sleeping on TikTok because they think it's a platform for um, young people, Gen Z, and the stereotype around, oh, it's just like kids dancing on it. Well, no, I think like 30-year-olds and 18 to 35 is probably their fastest growing segment. So that's my answer on that one. Alex Pranks asks, how would you build $1 billion business without raising? If I were building $1 billion business without raising, I would probably just focus on building a highly profitable business in a growing space that I'd probably honestly start like the easiest way I think to build $1 billion business right now without raising is building like an agency type business with good margins, growing in a new space. I think that's the easiest way. I mean, Accenture is a big business, and granted, it took when you compare like Apple, which is a $1 trillion company, to Accenture. What's the market cap of Accenture? Let's check. 195 billion. So when you compare that, and Accenture started like 100 years ago or something, like super old business, definitely takes longer, but I think it's your clearest path to getting to $1 billion business without raising. Raghav asks, should I create a community for customers who aren't able to pay? I've first fitnessed community for Gen Z. Okay, it's called Peak Pals. So it's the first fitness community for Gen Z in India. And Raghav asked, should I create a community for customers who aren't able to pay? I mean, ultimately, you want to create a sustainable business. And to create a sustainable business, you're going to need someone to pay. It's okay to build your community first and have them utilize it, but I think you should definitely think about what are some services that I can start adding to make this a sustainable business, so you're not completely reliant on venture capital. So that would be my advice there. Um, I would also say that it takes longer than people think to figure out ways to monetize. So the mistake a lot of people make here is they create this, for example, social network for fitness community. Seems like we have a lot of that here in the chat. And they hyper index on just creating the most incredible free product. But I think they should also think about what is something that I can charge for, because that might not be your first idea. Your first idea for what people will pay for might not be the thing that people actually pay for. It might be a flop, basically, is what I'm saying. So it might take 12, 18, 24 months for you to actually iterate on some monetization ideas before one thing hits. So think about it as if you're doing two concurrent paths. You're creating a product roadmap for your free customers, and you're iterating on that and hitting product market fit there. And then you're also experimenting with monetization features over here for the customers you're going to pay. So it's almost like you have two customers. The Vatic asks, what kind of business entity is best to set your Web3 community up as? Does this depend on the product service the community is offering? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, and I think it does depend. So not 100% sure and don't want to give advice on that. The Vatic also asks, can you explain product market fit? Yeah, product market fit is, it when you're going to see it. Your numbers are all up into the right. Product market fit basically means when your product and your market are just one. It's working. You're growing every month. If you do nothing, you're still going to grow. You don't have a retention problem, meaning people aren't leaving your product. Retention is good. Engagement is good. And people are spreading your product. Chris asks, oh, I lost Chris's question. Hold on. Here it is. What are some of the KPIs that you care most about when building community-first products? Incredible question. For me, it's retention and engagement. Why retention? And I would start with retention. So retention basically means people are coming back to your product, ideally on a daily basis. If you create something that people are coming back to daily, that is showing that there's tons of value. They wouldn't come back if it wasn't valuable. So I would say, if I had to pick one metric, I would say retention is the most important thing to focus on. If I had to pick two metrics, I would say engagement. Engagement meaning, yes, they're on the product, they're on the website, they're on the app, they're in the experience. But what's the frequency and engagement? How deeply are they using it? So, for example, if it's a messaging app for the fitness community, are they sending 100 messages a day, or are they sending one? Thanks for the question, Chris. Salman asks, thank you, Greg. As an investor, what are the top 2 to 3 ways in which you try to help founders? When I invest in founders, because I'm a one-trick pony and I focus on community-based products, I just say, like, hey, I can help you in community-based product stuff. I can help you in helping you think about designing habits, rituals to create this experience to have people come back to, and also creating a beautiful experience that speaks to these people. And that's where I can add the most amount of value. Furnitology asks, can you talk more on your thoughts around community design and how a solopreneur can start down that path? Specifically, I have a community of 3,000, but engagement is sleepy. So I actually threaded about community designers last week, and how I think it's going to be, community designers is going to be like the hit job of 2023 and 2024. And what is a community designer? Community designer is kind of like part product manager, part designer, part community manager. It's not someone who's managing the community, but it's someone who's designing the community. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, Friends with Benefits actually is a great example. For those of you who don't know Friends with Benefits, it's a tokenized community where you need to buy a certain amount of tokens and you get access to this Discord. They also have IRL events. I think they're throwing like a music festival, an arts festival right now. And when you look at, their private community, it's really just well set up. You can see like FWB California, you can see like FWB memes, you could see these like you can see that someone put a lot of thought into what can I create that brings people back on a daily basis. Um, and that's what a community designer does. A community designer would set up all those channels, listen to the community, iterate on those channels, create bots that bring people back, create email flows that bring people back, create a product, a web-based product that brings people back. That's what a great community designer does. Now, with Friends with Benefits, FWB, I wouldn't be surprised if they move off Discord completely. And I think, a great community designer is already thinking about that. It's thinking about how, okay, I've learned that this is how people are interacting with Discord currently. And it's, writes down, here's what's great about it, here's what isn't great about it. And then thinking about how can I create an experience on our web-based platform that is way more enriching, immersive, compelling. That's what a great community designer does. Jay asks, where do you think DAO's Web3 will be in 10 years? Best guesses. Where will Web3 be in 10 years? I think when you look at all the charts for, we talked about, I think Polygon hitting 150 million wallet addresses today. The arrow of progress is definitely upwards. Now, we're going to have years, months, quarters, whatever, that are going to be down. But I think that overall, you're going to see, you're just going to see more adoption for Web3 products. I think right now it feels very fringe, and it feels like, people make fun of it and, copy and paste this JPEG. Like, I get it. But I don't think people are going to be laughing in 10 years. Natalie asks, hey Greg, sorry you missed my question. Ask it again so I can see it. If anyone has more questions, I'm just like going through all these questions. First live episode, room where it happens. Hope you're enjoying. Spread this with your friends, tweet it out, get it out. Let's get people here to ask questions, and I'm just going to answer. All right. Jim Rat says, what is the best TikTok marketing strategy to get more people to download the app? I mean, that's the thing. Like, you don't have, like, there's no one size fits all marketing strategy for TikTok. There's no one size fits all marketing strategy for Twitter. It's about your particular niche. How are people servicing it today? And what is something that someone's going to be swiping through their TikTok feed and they're going to see a video and they're going to stop because they are interested in that niche, but also because it's unlike anything that they've seen before. That's how you should be reverse engineering your content strategy. Tokemav asks, is asking for 36 runway reasonable, or would you see raise 24 months runway and use Series A to extend runway dependent on KPIs being successful or not? I think 36 months runway is definitely reasonable. I think you can, when I raised $2 million for Islands, I had 50 months of runway. I think it's totally reasonable. So yeah, I think totally. 24 months is also reasonable. Ryan Gamble asks, what, if any, is your take on jobs to be done, lens, thinking framework, and building a business today? Yeah, the jobs to be done framework is a great way of thinking about how to build products. So, asking yourself, what are the jobs to be done in a particular community or a particular product, and then thinking about what are the product features to support that is a helpful exercise for any product manager to do. Diego Cortez question says, what do you think of token gated commerce? Shopify seems to think it's going to be big. I couldn't agree more with Shopify. I think that over the next few years, e-commerce merchants and merchants in general are going to reward customers with tokens. And those tokens should be able to do cool stuff. If Web3 is going to work, it needs to be valuable. So I think having these private, reward only sections of websites and IRL experiences is the future of NFTs, and I think it's going to be huge. Fun Guy Ross asked, you mentioned entrepreneurship is lonely and the focus on community. Have you attended any formal masterminds, paid and unpaid? I have. I've Sean Puri used to host masterminds. Sean Puri from My First Million and the Milk Road used to host masterminds at his office, and it was a great place where 4, 5, 6 entrepreneurs would come together, and we just kind of talk about what we're working through, and people would give feedback, and it was totally off the record, and it was a really, really good experience. The other thing I did when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, was me and my buddy Dario rented a big house in Los Angeles, and we invited the 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 biggest entrepreneurs, investors that we knew, actually entrepreneurs that we knew. And we hired a moderator, this guy, Antonio Neves, and we would come up. We basically gave everyone like an hour or 2 hours to like pitch an idea, and we'd all get feedback. And it was a 2 or 3 day session event, and it was amazing. And a lot of big companies came out of that. Company called Breather.com came out of it. They raised like $250 million. A company called Flow Water came out of it. It's a publicly traded company in Canada. So it was a great way to get feedback from people. So I think like one thing I think that if you want to get feedback on your startup, find like a really cool place, pick an island, something like that, and rent a cool house and reach out to people on Twitter and be like, hey, I'm throwing this like mastermind in Costa Rica or something, and you should come. And this guy is, moderating it, and it's only going to cost $1,000. And you end up getting awesome feedback. And also you get to meet potentially people who you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life. Sean Puri, I met at one of those. A lot of interesting people I met at this thing that we did in Los Angeles yearly. Salman asks, what are the top execution challenges you hear from founders at seed and Series A stage? Attrition, retention, outages, strategy. I think the biggest challenge I hear is retention. Retention is really hard to solve for because you can't hide from it. You can't hide from retention, and I think it's if you solve for retention, chances are you can figure out product market fit. Jim Red asks, in regards to TikTok, is it optimal to have a business account? Is it always a pay to play kind of thing when it comes to boosts and paid promos? You don't need a business account to go viral on TikTok at all. So don't worry about that. Just get started. Serge Labelle, hey Serge, asks, when do you think Web3 will become really mainstream? Do you build a community first, then lead them to the metaverse, NFTs, etc.? Serge, I think that's a great question. I think the best MVP, the best minimal viable product for a Web3 product is in fact a Web2 product. So meaning, if you want to go and create a tokenized community or an NFT project, I think the best thing you can do is, let's start a WhatsApp group with a bunch of people. Start that and see if you can get validation from these people in this particular niche. And then from that, I think you can extend that. So start with a Web2 product and then build a Web3 product. Thank you for the question. Rezen asks, what do you see missing in Web3 at the moment? I think there needs to, I've been talking about this for 8 months already, but free to mint is the most interesting thing in the NFT space right now in Web3. just, projects like Goblin Town, I think are interesting where people don't, it's free to mint. Doesn't cost, just the gas fees. I also saw a project yesterday, which was, I forget what it's called, but the point is it's pay what you feel. And it reminds me of 2004 or something like that in Rainbows. And I don't know if you all remember, but it was an album by Radiohead, and it was, they released it and they said, pay what you feel, basically. And later they did a analysis on what people paid. And it turns out that like people paid more than what they would actually pay for the album. So it was a great like sociology, psychology lesson around your whales or your power users, your power customers will end up supporting you regardless. So I think that's really cool. I think we're going to see more of that in Web3. My dad asks, is Phil's in SF still the best coffee you have ever tasted in all the places you have lived? XO, mom and dad. Well, mom and dad, I do think, and there were some tweets about Phil's saying it wasn't good from someone, but no, it's Phil's, I think, is incredible coffee. And I think they might have one in New York. I think I might have seen that. So love Phil's. I think it's awesome. Ashita says, what are your thoughts on the metaverse? I think the metaverse is a loaded term with a lot of baggage, but I think that the idea behind the metaverse is real. And what is that idea? The idea that we're spending more and more time digitally. It's the experiences are more and more immersive, and they're more and more interoperable. I think is the direction of the arrow of progress. So that's what I think about it, but definitely a loaded term. Toka of Mav says, what are your favorite questions for founders when investing in the early days? I mean, my favorite question, I would say, honestly, like, why are you doing this? Like, what part of your life led you to this point that you're the best person to go after this particular problem? Alistair McMillan says, my dad's the largest stockholder in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and he's more or less forcing me to get into that as work. Do you think I should work elsewhere or with my dad? I mean, I think that if you can, you should do whatever speaks to you, and people shouldn't really work on, obviously you need to make money. So I think people should go work with where their heart is telling them if they can. That's ideal. The Vatic says, do you believe in running ads on major platforms and building an audience, or is creating content and letting those reside with, find, and engage with a better method in building a solid audience? I've never spent a dollar on promoting, like doing Twitter ads for myself or LinkedIn ads. So, and I've sold millions of dollars of client work on our agency, and other businesses. So I wouldn't recommend paying for ads. It doesn't really make sense. Grant Lanier says, starting a nonprofit Web3 charity, Givosity, and having trouble gaining steam. What is the best way to get people to take you seriously when you only have 57 followers on Twitter? Seems like a catch-22. One of the quickest ways to get your first 1,000 followers is just to reply to well-known accounts with really thoughtful replies. So setting up Twitter notifications for, let's say, Sahil Bloom or myself, and who have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and replying with really well thought out answers really quickly, like within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And you're going to get 5, 10 followers per day just by doing that. So I think that's what I would do if I were you. Lucas asks, do you see potential for brands on Shopify to incorporate token-gated commerce in retail stores as well? My Drake brand will be present in a physical and e-commerce setting. I think I'm almost more interested in token-gated IRL experiences than I am in token gated digital experiences. So 100%. And Lucas says that he'll get me those drinks when they're ready. Thank you. I appreciate it. Matt Gold says, what's your favorite place to live? That's a tough question. I think I've lived in, for those of you who don't know me, I've lived in Montreal. I lived in San Francisco, where I spent a lot of time in LA as well. And I've lived in Miami. And I also have a house in a small town called Saint Agathe in Quebec, which is basically forest and mountains and lakes. I loved my time in San Francisco because I was getting into tech and I was trying to meet the smartest people as possible. And there's just a high density of those people. And at the time, it was amazing. But I did feel like it was a law of diminishing returns. Like at a certain point, I felt like I knew a lot of the people. And so, I wanted out. Oh, and I forgot. I also lived in New York, but very, very shortly. Not for a very long amount of time. Los Angeles is really cool, and there's a lot of creatives there, but it's so spread out, and so I don't know. I think I wouldn't live in Los Angeles. New York was way too busy for me and got me like, I was honestly like anxious just being there. Miami has been great. I've been living there since COVID. My favorite place to live, all things considered, has been Miami. Why Miami? Because I like the weather. The weather's really good. It's on the East Coast. I like the East Coast. I like being a part of like a place that feels like it's growing. So like that just feels good. And with all like the laws and stuff, it feels like I'm swimming downstream versus swimming upstream. Whereas when I was in Montreal, I felt like I was swimming upstream. Natalie Mass, do you see my questions? I've asked 3 times and no response. I haven't seen your questions actually. So I'm scrolling up and maybe there's there it is. Oh no, I see. Hey Greg, sorry I missed your question. Okay. I'm looking for your question, Natalie. And no, I don't see your question. So can you post it again? And I will try to answer it. I don't know if you're trolling me or not. Maybe you're just trolling me. I just see you asking twice if you see my question. That's amazing. If you are trolling me, that is awesome. Emron says, can you elaborate on token gated IRL? Totally. So first of all, you should Google like the Doodles Shopify experience at South by Southwest. It was like amazing. And so just Google that. That's one thing you should do. But what is it? It's basically like if you own a token, let's say you own a Doodles, you would get access to the South by Southwest Doodles activation, where maybe you get a free stuffed animal, or maybe you get a free coffee. So owning the token gives you IRL unlocks, is what we're talking about. Salman asks, what would be a decent career path trajectory for a community designer at a growing company? Is your thread essentially advising a brand new career ladder leading up to chief community officer? Yes, I believe that a community designer could become a chief community officer or even chief product officer if it becomes a community-based product. Matt Kramer asks, do you think there is room for charity fundraising type NFT mints? Example, fundraising for humanitarian aid in Ukraine. Or is that too limiting? P.S. Where is Sahil changing a diaper? He actually is, I think he's busy with his kid. So it's just me. Yes. What we saw with Ukraine, obviously, it was, in a short amount of time, $50 million of Ethereum was raised. I expect, people are not talking about how amazing Web3 is for raising funds for nonprofits or social justice things. So I expect a lot of that to happen soon. The Vatic asks, how important is engaging with your audience, responding to comments, responding to DMs, etc.? Really important. You have to do it. You have to do it. And that's, why do you have to do it? It's because you're building friendships with people and you're building relationships with people, and you kind of have to put in the work. Kevin asks, who works at late checkout, who is your favorite late checkout employee? Unfortunately, Kevin, I can't answer that. I don't play favorites. I love our team. They're amazing. Natalie Mass says, lol, okay, I'm not trolling, haha. But Natalie, you still haven't asked the question, so I don't know if you're actually not trolling me or not. So please ask the question. Diego asks, what about token gated merch or token gated digital goods? I think token gated merch is going to be huge. You're starting to see a little bit of that. The Atom Bomb Squad has that, which is the Hundreds project, and I think it's really smart. Token gated digital goods like software makes a lot of sense. I also think NFTs as subscriptions for software is also of interest. Crucial. That's Josh Fabian says, thanks for letting me borrow your Lambo the other day, Greg. I've been telling everyone about how you saved those kittens from a burning building the other day. So that didn't happen, but thank you, Josh. That was awesome. Natalie Mass says, I've posted it 4 times. Why can anyone see my comments? Can anyone see my comments? No, Natalie, we still can't see it. You are A+ troller. Natalie Mass going for question number 5. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to see this? So far, we got nothing. So nothing from Natalie. Jason asks, what are your thoughts on play-to-earn economies? Do you see any coming out of the future that are not Ponzi's? I think I think that unfortunately the 2021-2022 era ushered a ton of basically Ponzi schemes, and I've started to see a few projects that haven't launched yet that are really, really interesting that aren't. So I think we're going to see 2023 2 to 3 big play to learn economies come out. So don't give up on play to earn just yet. Anthony Carlson, have you ventured into the boring business landscape like Cody Sanchez for additional revenue streams, or are you solely focused on late checkout and Web3? Solely focused on late checkout, although we are in the business of looking to acquire businesses. So stay tuned for that. But we would only acquire community-based product businesses because our whole thesis is that community-based products outperform non-community-based products, and we're trying to build the Berkshire Hathaway of community-based products. Oh my God, everyone. Natalie Mass has asked her question. I see it, and I'm going to read it out to everyone. Here it is. We are building a preview experience to gain knowledge around viability. Basically, high-fidelity Figma screens hosted on Azure. Is this something investors are interested in? I don't know why you're asking me if this is something investors are interested in. I also don't even understand what that means. So go pitch some investors, Natalie, and they will tell you if they're interested. Matthew says, if you are forced to make 10K in 30 days, what would you do? Can't use your network, rep, or current assets. I would start a Instagram Reels / TikTok TikTok agency, and I would for $100, $200, $300 cut clips for influencers. I'd reach out to them. There's a huge need for that. Let's take a few more questions. We're just about an hour actually into this. This has been super fun. I'm gonna take a few more questions, and then I'm gonna, then I'm out. Then I'll probably have some dinner. All right. Do you think more behind the scenes mechanism Web3 products will pop up now instead of such upfront products, NFTs, etc.? Thank you, Nadine. Yes, I do. I do think so. Troy says, I'm in a Web3 UGC open social gaming platform DAO that's in the alpha phase. What are some ways that we can attract new 3D creators, collabs, or partnerships with large NFT projects? I mean, the first thing is join the project. So go and join Club CPG. Like go and actually join some of these big projects and actually be a part of it. And ask them, how can we make your lives easier? What can we do? Can we throw an event together? I think it's joining the communities. And obviously, a CryptoPunk or a Bored Ape might be too expensive to join, but there's tons of projects where, it might not be too cost prohibitive to join. And you could easily start to get to know people and easily just pitch them on cool ways that you can be supportive. Think about it less of how you can subtract to their experience and think about how you can add to their experience. Thanks for the question. Diego asked, are there any plans for a late checkout Discord or any other places to hang out with you? We actually have a late checkout Discord. It's you can check it. It's somewhere on our website, latecheckout.studio. What are your the Vatic asks, what are your favorite features on each specific social media platform for building a community? Facebook / IG, TikTok, YouTube, Snap. For building a community, IG isn't very good at all. Facebook groups is underrated. TikTok doesn't have much for building a community realistically. It's just more of an audience play. YouTube also is more broadcast than anything. Snap Snap groups isn't there yet. I think my favorite features, if I had to rank them, favorite platform would be Facebook groups. Discord is kind of a mess, but it's still decent. And of course Reddit. Ishida says, where can you find great community designers? Really, really difficult. That's why we hire them at late checkout, and we're in the agency business. Naturally Clever asks, hey Greg, what do you do mainly for work outside this podcast? I run an agency and studio called Late Checkout. What subreddits do you spend a lot of time on? It's a mix. It's anything from, I talked about the fire community a little bit, the Volvo subreddit, because I drive a Volvo, and different cities and games, and then that's about it. All right. Now, tell me if people had fun enjoying this. Write in the chat if you want me to do this again. You want me and Sahil to do this again. This has been really fun. I've loved answering all your questions. This has been really cool. Okay, I'll answer one last question. How many hours does late checkout take to run weekly, and how do you get clients? I work pretty hard. When I probably only work 40 hours a week, but even when I'm not working, I'm kind of just thinking about it too in the back of my mind. So I'm constantly thinking about it. Late checkout is really much my baby. So thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Where It Happens YouTube channel. We have a ridiculously low amount of subscriptions. But thanks for asking your question, getting to know me a bit better. And if you like this, again, subscribe, join our email list, triwh.com, and tweet at me at Greg Isenberg and tell me what you think. It's been real. Thanks, everyone.